So let's just talk about the Clippers for a second. This has not exactly been a step-up franchise. When you consider the circumstances, let's contextualize this. Consider all the circumstances. Was that the greatest night in Clippers history? I'm dead serious. Now think about this. At Utah, best home team in the league. Kawhi Leonard's out. The Jazz played their best quarter of the year. The pressure on Paul George and his playoff reputation. No Lakers LeBron, so the West is wide open. You're massive underdogs. And you have an impatient owner who's unhappy with how you underachieved last year. And the Clippers played a, at times, flawless basketball game. First, even when they went down 0-2, last night was an example of why I said I still like them. They're just a deeper, more athletic team. I mean, Reggie Jackson's a 10-year journeyman. He's been a reliable stud in this series. Marcus Morris, forgettable player, right? He's been excellent. Big shots. Paul George, easily after Kawhi Leonard, he's the best two in this series. And Ty Lue has had one for the ages coaching series. He's been fantastic. But last night is also why they're the most maddening team in the league. I mean, think about this. Utah hit 10 threes in the first quarter. They were virtually perfect. Clippers were down one. What? What? Who could survive that? We would have never guessed the Clippers would survive that without Kawhi Leonard. Paul George, who's never in his career, I mean, there's Indianapolis pressure, there's OKC pressure. No, last night was pressure. Steve Ballmer's unhappy, Kawhi is out, the world's watching, LeBron's out of the way. This is your moment. Oh, Paul George had his best game, not only as a Clipper, he may have had his best game as a pro. This is why they're maddening. That was a snake pit last night. I mean, I literally gave the Clippers no chance in that game. That first quarter was the wildest first quarter in the league this year. Utah was flawless. Couldn't miss. Clippers down one. Almost down one. First of all, Ty Lue has had an unbelievable series. His manipulation of lineups. Last night he goes small. Rudy Gobert ends up with no blocks. When's the last time Rudy Gobert played in a big game, didn't have a block or six? He had no blocks. So this has really been an illustration. This, I hate to say this, but it almost felt like the Lakers. We've had dozens of games in the last 10, 15 years. Lakers just step up in the moment. Kobe to Shaq, the dunk, the moment. We've had individual players, LeBron, KD, Chris Paul, give us moments. You got Paul George's reputation. You got the Clippers' reputation. And that's what I got. I hope every Clipper had a second Heineken flying back to L.A. Today is one of those savor the moment. Now, it's the NBA, so you play tomorrow. So you don't get much of one. You don't get a third beer on the flight home. That was an amazing performance. That was unbelievable. To overcome and withstand that first quarter by the Jazz, half this league would have been down 20. And to do it without Kawhi. Now, it should be noted that a lot of times a team will lose a star, and for a game, they elevate. It's like the substitute teacher. You know what I mean? Like everybody's nice to the substitute teacher. You have these moments where the star leaves or an important person leaves, and everybody kind of rallies around. It's like this micro community, and everybody plays above themselves. But Reggie Jackson's been good in multiple games. Morris hit shots in multiple games. Paul George's been good in multiple games. Ty Lue's been great. This is a savor the moment. You're not going to have a lot of time to celebrate. Savor the moment, because that's when you contextualize it. You consider all the circumstances, the pressure on Paul, the pressure from Ballmer, the pressure from the LA media. You're playing the same building as the Lakers, and you gave us that in that snake pit is unbelievable. That is a great Clipper moment, and they haven't had a ton of them, and they haven't answered the bell in spots like that, but that was amazing. I just sat there in the first quarter. I'm like, they are just going shot for shot with the best three-point shooting team in the league, who was having their best three-point shooting quarter of the season. Clippers trailed by one. Wow. Now let's shift to a more catastrophic ending Been watching the NBA a long time. Not sure I've ever seen anything as hideous as what happened to the Philadelphia 76ers. They led by like 18 midway through the third. That was awful. But it almost had to be that way. We've all heard the term before in life. You take a step back to take two steps forward. You know what I mean? You dissolve a business, you dissolve a relationship, you take a step back to move a couple steps forward. In a weird way, this may not be terrible. Now, I'm sure Philadelphia sports radio this morning is measured and nuanced, but for years and years, the media in Philly, the GMs, the one that got fired, the other one, now the new one, Daryl Morey, coaches, Embiid, Simmons, it works. This thing is going to work. It's like a Hollywood couple. They're beautiful people. It's going to work. But every time you see them, it looks clunky and they argue and you're like, well, but they're both doing very well in their careers. Their children are beautiful. And then one time they have a fight and they at a Christmas party, and on the way home, the couples acknowledge, yeah, it doesn't work for us. It just doesn't work for us. The Sixers needed this because they have been telling me for years, Embiid, Simmons work. They don't. Simmons needs the open lane to score. He doesn't trust himself. He doesn't even want to go to the free throw line. He's petrified. He's terrified. But he's gifted. Embiid is unbelievable, but he's still hurt. You almost needed this moment. So now Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey, when they meet, are not going to sit there with platitudes and go, it'll come together. It is a mess. Sometimes you need a big blow up. You need a mess. You need a fight. You need a catastrophe to go, oh, crap. This isn't going to work. And it's okay because we've been talking ourselves into the Sixers for years. Every time I question it, I brought their coaches on. I bring their GMs on. I talk to Doc. Everybody's always, the talented, super. I know it doesn't quite look like it fits, but this morning, nobody can say, that's really going to win championships. It doesn't work. Simmons only works if the lane is open. You have to have Ben Simmons as your point, surround him with shooters, take that pressure off him. Embiid, there's a bunch of places he fits, hopefully with a point guard that can shoot. But he's going to clog the lane up. He's the closest thing we've seen in 15 years to Shaq. He's going to clog the lane up. You got to give him the lane. He gives you 28 a night. He's a monster talent. But the two together don't work. And Simmons, and you can tell it usually gets worse before it gets better. The couple that fight, it gets worse than the blow up. This is getting worse now. Embiid now resents Simmons. Simmons now is not even indifferent. He doesn't want to be coached by it. Doc Rivers now, after the game, is trying to tiptoe and walk around what is clear is that Ben Simmons has missed more free throws in the playoffs than the Atlanta Hawks team has. Seth Curry and Embiid were the only guys that scored after the break for Philadelphia. Ben Simmons in the last 2 second halves has taken 2 shots. It doesn't work. Simmons needs a new start. Simmons needs an open lane. Simmons needs lots of shooters. You can't give up on Ben Simmons. He's talented. There's something there. He's too cool and indifferent for my taste. I missed on this evaluation. But he's too good of a player not to have him somewhere around for some organizations. But we were just going to talk ourselves for years into this thing works. You needed that. It crystallized everything. This just doesn't work. I mean, good God, you put Harden, Kyrie, and KD together, an hour later, we're like, whoo! I mean, you put KD, Clay, and Steph together, you're like, only one ball, hour later, whoo! It can't take this long. If you're in therapy twice a week, 9 years into a relationship, it can't be that hard. At some point, you got to be able to sit down on a television with each other on a Tuesday night, and you both got a cold and you feel like crap and somebody's crying upstairs and you're happy. You're just happy being together. It just kind of works. We just kind of hang out together. We just kind of like each other. This doesn't work. And I honestly think, though this won't play well in Philadelphia today, you kind of needed this. A complete, utter disaster to wake everybody else to go, yeah, we probably got to blow this stuff up. We probably got to start this thing over. It's good for everybody. Simmons will go to a better place. Embiid probably stays. He'll get some shooters. Daryl Morey likes to make moves anyway. Doc Rivers has moved around the league. He's moved around players. Some like him, some don't. It's time to move on. This doesn't work. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.